Hi everyone, welcome back to another Planetarium live stream. My name is Jessica, I am the director of the Planetarium, and with me tonight is one of our students and a familiar face for those who have been here before, but I will let him introduce himself.
My name is Eli. I'm a physics and astronomy undergraduate student at UFU.
So tonight is our monthly constellation story time where we'll take you through the night sky, show you the stars and constellations that will be up this month, and tell you some of the stories behind them. So I am going to get that switched over and we can get started. So to do this show, we are using a program called Stellarium. This is actually a really cool program that is free to download on your computer and lets you set up for any place, date, or time and shows you what the sky is going to look like. So I have it set up for Duluth right now. We can see that the sun is starting pretty much set in the west. Those short winter days are definitely on their way. And over in the south, you can actually start to see Jupiter already. So after the show, if you want to head out and look south, that really bright light that you see, that is the planet Jupiter. And once it gets a little bit darker, you'll see the planet Saturn right next to it. That one can be a little bit harder to discern as a planet, though, because it is about the same brightness as the other stars or as the stars that are near it. So it's hard to tell that it's not just a star, whereas Jupiter is much brighter than anything else. But if you can find Jupiter, it'll be right there beside it. So I am going to fast forward time to get us a little bit later into the night. We'll stop there about 8 o'clock tonight. And we are going to start our journey through the stars in the north. It's always a great place to start because there are some really bright stars and some good groupings of stars that can help us as we navigate the night sky to other ones. And so what we're going to start off with is right here, our 7 bright stars in a shape that's probably pretty familiar to you. This is the Big Dipper. We have the handle and then the cup of the Big Dipper. So the Big Dipper is actually not a constellation. It is an asterism. It's a smaller grouping of stars that are a part of a larger constellation. And so these are just the 7 brightest stars in the constellation of Ursa Major, or the Big Bear. And so to see the bear, we'll add on some more stars, and we'll take our handle here and turn that into the bear's tail. And then the back, ear, nose, chest, front legs, belly, and back legs. I'll do it one more time. We have the tail, back, ear, nose, chest, front legs, belly, and back legs. So it's really cool. This time of year, our big bear looks like she's kind of walking along the horizon. So that is not the only bear we have in the sky. With the big bear, we also have the little bear. And the best way to find our little bear, also our little dipper, is to actually use the Big Dipper to help us. And so we take these 2 front stars here at the front of the cup of the dipper. These are what's known as the pointer stars, because if you connect them in a line and you follow that line, you will come across this bright star here, which is Polaris, the North Star. And it's known as the North Star, not because of how bright it is. A lot of people assume that the North Star is special because it's the brightest star in the sky, and it's actually not. That honor goes to the star Sirius, which is up in the winter. But this one is special because it's the only star in our night sky that doesn't move. All of the other stars move across the sky because the Earth is spinning. But this star does it because that's right where our North Pole is pointing. So everything else spins around it, and that means the star is always in the direction of north. And that's why it became so useful and important, because early navigators knew that if they could find the North Star, that is where it would always be, that is where north was, and once you know north, you know all of your other directions. So Polaris here, our North Star, is at the end of the handle of the Little Dipper. And so here is the handle and the cup of the Little Dipper. Now you may notice that the stars in the Little Dipper are not nearly as bright as the stars in the Big Dipper. And that is very much the case. That's why a lot of people have trouble finding the Little Dipper in the sky, because really just Polaris and the two front cup stars are usually the only ones you'll see, especially in any sort of light pollution. You have to have really, really dark skies to be able to see all of the stars in the Little Dipper. So our Little Dipper is also our little bear. We're going to have to use a bit of imagination to see a bear. So we have a long bear tail, back leg, body, front legs, and head. Yeah, long tail, tiny little body definitely reminds me more of a squirrel instead of a bear. But there is a very good reason why our two bears here have such long tails. A lot of people like to joke it's because the Greeks who created these constellations and the stories associated with them, they like to joke that they just clearly didn't know what a bear looked like. But that's not true. Their story actually explains why these bears have such long tails. Yes, Quinn. My cat has decided to join in and that she wants to be a part of the show tonight. So I hope you enjoy hearing her meows in the background. Um, the story starts with Zeus, who is the king of the Greek gods. And he has a habit of coming down to Earth and making friends with the humans on Earth and ignoring his wife, who is still up on Mount Olympus, where all of the gods live. And this is what's happened one day. He's come to Earth, he's made friends with this woman named Callisto, and Hera, Zeus's wife, has just had enough, and she decides to enact her revenge on Zeus by turning his new friend Callisto into a bear. And so she does, and then she drags Zeus away. What they didn't realize, though, is Callisto had a son named Arcas. Well, Arcas started to get worried when his mom didn't come home, and so he went out into the woods to search for her, thinking that maybe she got hurt or lost. And in his search, he came across this big, beautiful bear, which he didn't realize was actually his mother. Well, he was scared and was about to defend himself against what he thought was a ferocious bear. Thankfully, though, Zeus had come back to check on Callisto and see how she was doing. And he knew that he could not reverse Hera's curse on Callisto. He couldn't turn Callisto back human. And so he did the next best thing. He instead turned Arcas into a bear so that they could live together as bears. But then he also wanted to do something a little bit extra, so he picked them up by their bare tails, swung them around, and flung them up into the sky where they could live up in the sky as stars and live forever together up there. And so that process of being spun and flung is what ended up stretching out these bear tails here. So there is a reason for it, and that is why those bears have such long tails. All right, now in between our two bears and our two dippers sits another really fun constellation. So if you take the pointer stars again, but this time, instead of going all the way to Polaris, we're going to stop at the first star we come across. This star is at the end of the tail of Draco the dragon. So here is his long winding tail cutting right between our two bears, up to his big full belly, and to his eyes and nose, and he's breathing fire all over this way. Over all on someone that we'll talk about in a second. And so here is Draco the dragon. All right. Now we're going to take those pointer stars again, and this time we're going to go to Polaris and then keep going. And if we keep going around, we end up coming across this big W in the sky. This big W is known as Cassiopeia, who is a queen. Now, you have to use a little bit more imagination to kind of see the queen here. So we kind of picture her as if she's sitting in her throne and we're getting kind of a profile or a side view. And so here is her head, her back, upper legs, lower legs, and then big long feet. She's got some really big feet. And so that is Cassiopeia. Now, Cassiopeia is not alone. She is up in the sky with her king. And to find her king, we're going to take Cassiopeia and look kind of up and to the left. And we'll come across this square with a triangle attached to it. It kind of looks like an upside down house, or at least the kind of house, a little kid might draw, or that frankly I might draw because I have no artistic talents. You can ask Eli, he's in my classes. He's seen me try and scribble on the board.
There are a lot of pictures in those slides. We haven't drawn too much.
Just extrapolate from me trying to write on that pad right out. It's not good. It's not pretty. I would
draw the house. Don't feel bad about it. You see my home.
Well, okay, that's fair. We'll say from now on when we draw it that we're actually drawing Cepheus.
All right, sounds good.
All right. So yes, this square with a triangle attached is King Cepheus, and he's upside down right now, also sitting in his throne. And so here is where his face would be, his head. He's kind of looking out at us, and then arms, and then legs. And so there is our King Cepheus and our Queen Cassiopeia. Now they both have a daughter who is also up in the nighttime sky. And so to see the daughter, we're actually going to use Cassiopeia to help us. So we're going to take this top part of the W and use it as an arrow. And with the arrow, we are going to point ourselves to their daughter, Andromeda. And so here are Andromeda's legs. Her arms are stretched out this way, and then her head would be up here. And so this is the Princess Andromeda. Now, our king, queen, and princess are all in another story that Eli's going to tell. Or no, did you want me to tell it? You wanted me to tell it.
No, I can tell it. That's fine.
Okay. That Eli is going to tell us. Sorry if I put you on the spot. I couldn't remember what we decided.
Oh, sorry.
But they are joined by two other characters that I'm going to tell you about before I hand it over. So our next character in our story, if we go back to Cassiopeia and then just go straight down to this next grouping of stars, this is the constellation of Perseus. And so here is his head, his body, legs, and he's got his arm outstretched because he's holding out the head of Medusa, which is kind of his claim to fame. He's the guy who killed Medusa. And then Perseus is joined by his faithful steed, who is over here next to Andromeda. And just get ready because this is a doozy of a constellation. All right. So Perseus' faithful steed is everyone's favorite flying horse, Pegasus. And here is how you find Pegasus in the stars. We start with this star right here, and then go to this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then back to where we started. Yeah, it's a big square. I don't understand what the Greeks were thinking when they saw a big square and decided, yeah, that totally looks like a horse with wings. But there you go. That is the square of Pegasus. And with that, we now have all of our characters, and so I will turn it over to Eli, who will tell us the story.
Okay, yeah. So as we know, our story starts with Cepheus and Cassiopeia, who are the king and queen, or were the king and queen of what was now Ethiopia. And they had this beautiful, beautiful daughter, Andromeda, like just the most beautiful woman in the whole land. And they liked to brag about it quite a bit. Whenever they would have guests over, they were talking, they would always want to talk up how beautiful their daughter was. And one day, they took it to the point of saying, "Our daughter is more beautiful than the gods and goddesses on Mount Olympus." Now, as you might be able to guess, the gods did not particularly like that. And they sent a messenger down, and this messenger said, in order or in exchange for insulting the gods like that, you have to sacrifice the thing you were talking about so much. So they had to sacrifice their daughter Andromeda and sacrifice it to a sea monster out in the ocean. So they chained her up, and they chained her up to this big rock right out facing the sea, and they waited for the sea monster to come get her as the sacrifice. Luckily for Andromeda, however, a hero was in the night sky. This hero was Hercules, who, or wait, it's
Perseus.
Perseus rather. Yeah, excuse me. And this hero was Perseus, who was flying on his trusty steed and his trusty square. And as he was flying overhead, he heard Andromeda's cries for help. So he flew down on Pegasus and he landed and he saw what was going on. He saw a princess chained to a big boulder and a big sea monster coming at him, and he had to do some quick thinking. He could either try to fight the sea monster, but that thing looked pretty big and scary. He could try to unchain Andromeda, but that might take too long, and then they might both become lunch for the sea monster. Or, after some quick thinking, he figured he could take this head of Medusa that he has and face it towards the ocean and turn this sea monster to stone. So that's what he did. He took the head of Medusa out, faced it out, turned the sea monster to stone, unchained Andromeda, and suffice it to say, they lived happily ever after. Um, Cepheus and Cassiopeia, unfortunately, don't get that same pleasure. The reason they're placed in the sky as they are is because they can never look at each other again. They can't like indulge this vanity that they had, that they like to talk about stuff like that so much. So that is their punishment since the gods didn't get the sacrifice they wanted.
Yep, quite an epic tale up there in
Yep.
the northeastern sky. Now you'll also notice over here in the east, we have the moon and Mars pretty close together. So if you were able to go out yesterday, you would have actually found the moon and Mars really close by. But Mars is visible up in the east this evening. And if you have a telescope, so is the planet Uranus. But you gotta have a telescope for that one. All right, so let's turn back to the north again and turn more northwest. We are going to use the Big Dipper once again to help us find another star. You'll notice we use the Big Dipper a lot for kind of hopping around the sky, and that's because of how bright it is and how easy to find it is. You can see it even with a decent amount of light pollution, so it's always a good like starting point, and then you learn how to find other stars based off of it. And so we've already done, our pointer stars to find Draco, and to find Polaris and the Little Dipper, and then to find our queen Cassiopeia. But this time, we are going to use the handle of the Big Dipper, and we're going to follow the arc of that handle to this bright star here known as Arcturus. And so we arc to Arcturus. Now, Arcturus has an adorable story that goes with it. That's actually comes from I think it's the Lumi Native American tribe. And this involves the mischievous character of Coyote. Now, Coyote is always known as this kind of, I said mischievous already, but he's always been kind of a bit of a trickster. Well, one day Coyote is out walking around and he sees this group of ladies that he decides he has to impress. And he figures out that the best way to impress them is to pluck out his eyeballs and start juggling them. Yeah, so that's what he does. So he's juggling them, they're watching. He's starting to get, a little bit of an ego inflation and decides to juggle his eyes higher and higher and higher to be more impressive. Well, unfortunately for Coyote, he threw one of his eyeballs a little bit too hard, so hard that it ended up flying up into the sky and landed plop right here. And so this star, Arcturus, is also known as Coyote's Eyeball. I love that story. Now, to the Greeks, the star of Arcturus is in a constellation known as Bootes. Now, Bootes, in my opinion, looks like a cone of ice cream. And so here is the cone and then the scoop of ice cream on top. I've also heard it described as a kite, but this is actually supposed to be a guy. This is a bear herder who is herding our two bears across the sky. Again, got to use a little bit of imagination there to try and see what it's supposed to be. Now, right next to Bootes, we have this U shape. This is Corona Borealis, the northern crown. Now, to move on from there, we are then going to find another hero in our sky who is Hercules. Hercules can be a little bit tricky to find. You will often hear people say that the trick is to look for the keystone, but I'm going to be honest, the first time I heard that, I didn't know what a keystone looked like. So one of our other students, Lindsay, taught me a really clever trick that has always helped me find Hercules, and so I'm going to teach it to you. And so to find Hercules, what we want to do is to turn our crown here into a spoon. And I think that's perfect because I already think that Bootes is an ice cream cone. And so it makes sense. We're making a spoon to eat our ice cream with. All right, so to turn this into a spoon, we're going to need to attach a couple more stars to be the handle of the spoon, and then here is the kind of bowl or cup of the spoon, whatever you want to call it. Well, when we've added stars to become the handle, the two brightest stars right here that we added are actually the belt stars of Hercules. And so by turning our crown into a spoon, we have found Hercules. And so here is his full body. This is his upper body, and so his arms are kind of going out like this. And then here is his lower body with his legs going out this way. He looks a little silly, almost like he's kind of flailing across the sky. But a school group we had a few years ago gave me a much better idea for what's going on. Because if you remember, here's the head of Draco, who is breathing fire all over Hercules. Well, instead of flailing, the kids decided that Hercules is doing an awesome ninja roll across the sky to avoid Draco's fire. And so that is what we have decided. That is what Hercules is doing. All right. Now, over in the southwest, if you look kind of up higher in the sky, you'll find three bright stars. These make up the summer triangle. We have officially moved into fall, which is why the triangle is getting lower in the sky, but it's still up right now. You can still go see it. So these bright stars are Vega, Deneb, and Altair. And each of them has their own constellation that goes with them. Vega is in the constellation of Lyra the harp. This is kind of the harp frame, and then the strings would go like this. I like sorry, I lost my words there for a second. My favorite thing to see over here instead of a harp is something that a guest saw and told us about a few summers ago, where he says that instead of a harp, he sees a man doing squats. So Vega is like his head, and here's the barbell, and then the body, and then the squatting legs. I love it. I think it's perfect, and that's all I see now when I see Lyra. Now, Lyra is in a story with the constellation that Altair is in. So Altair is in Aquila the Eagle, And so we have the kind of teardrop shape here, which is the eagle's body, some wings, and then some talons. He's swooping down right now to get Delphinus the dolphin for a little snack. But Lyra the harp used to belong to a man named Orpheus, who was known for being a beautiful harp player. And he unfortunately lost his wife one day. She passed away, and he was very sad about it. And the ladies in town decided after about a week that he had mourned for long enough and it was time for him to remarry, and he better marry one of them. So they all approach him, all ask for, to marry him, and he turns them all down because, I mean, it's been a week, and he's very much still in love with his wife, very much still mourning over her. He's not ready to get married again. Well, they do not take rejection well and decide to get back at Orpheus by killing him. Yeah, poor guy. He gets murdered by these women who then take his beloved harp and throw it in a river. Now, I've said that Orpheus was a very talented harp player. He was even known by the gods and goddesses. They would have him play for them. And so when Zeus found out about this horrible tragedy, he asked Achille the eagle to swoop down and pick up the harp from the river, and then he placed them both up into the sky in a place of honor up there. Now, the third corner of our triangle, Deneb, is a part of Cygnus the swan. And so Deneb is the tail feathers, and then we have a wing and a wing and a long swan neck. And so Cygnus here is kind of flying through the Milky Way galaxy. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up for our constellations. Let's fast forward through time a little bit more. You can really see what I was talking about, how Polaris doesn't move, and all of the other stars do. Up in the east, not too late at night, we start to see our winter constellations coming up because winter is coming, which I may be the only person who's excited for, but I love it. I
The only
also
person in
just
this call right now that's excited for it.
really early in the morning, if you get up super early, you can see Venus up in the morning sky. And there comes the sun. So we are back to daytime. So that wraps up our constellation story time for the month of October. Now, did we have any questions come in?
No questions.
No. All right. Well, I think it is time to draw our winner. For those of you who may know, we had our rescheduled Stellar Saturday event earlier today. We were raffling off this really awesome book, 50 Things to See on the Moon, and we are going to pick our winner right now. I should have gotten like a drum roll sound effect or something.
Like a soundboard application.
Oh, I really should. As much as we've been streaming, I really should. All right. Our winner is ticket number 288171. I think it's backwards for you. That is our winner, 288171. If you have the winning ticket, get in touch with us, and we will get you your awesome book. Thank you to everyone who stopped by this afternoon. We had a great time. It was really nice to just be out doing stuff again other than sitting in front of the computer, which we still love. We love doing this too. So with that, if you do have any questions, now's a great time to leave them down in the comments. And while we wait to see if any of those come in, let's go over, I keep fading into the background. The green shirt may not have been the right choice, but It's fine. Let me tell you a little bit about what is coming up over the next week. So we are in Spooktober. All of our shows in the month of October are going to have a kind of a spooky or just Halloween theme to them. So coming up Wednesday of next week, we have Monsters in the Sky, which is going to look at some creepy and cool things that are in our universe, some that just kind of look like familiar shapes, other interesting things like, did you know there is such thing as vampire stars? Well, you can learn about
Mm.
them in Monsters in the Sky. And then Saturday of next week, we will have spooky star stories to tell in the dark, where we'll go through some of the spookier or creepier constellation stories and tell you about them from all different cultures all over the world. Now, both of these shows are going to be family friendly. If you are interested in a little bit grittier of a version of spooky star stories, you can join us a little bit later in the month where we'll be doing Bloody Skies, which is a more PG-13 version of this. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's what we've got going on this month. And all of this is going to lead up to Halloween Day, where we are going to be doing Halloween outside the planetarium. So you may know that we have for the past 2 years put on, if I must say, I think it's been an awesome Halloween event, but I'm a little biased. um, which we still want to do something. So we're going to have a drive-through event where you can pick up a bag of goodies, and we'll also have some things that you can watch from your car. Little spoiler, I am trying to figure out if I can drop a pumpkin off the planetarium roof for science. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to be fun. But it's going to be a great time. We're excited. We've got a lot of great things, I think, planned. And you'll hear more about that very soon. We will have the time announced next week, is what we're planning. Um, so, one more time, in case anyone missed it, our raffle winner for the 50 things to see on the moon is ticket number 288171. Again, get in touch with us and we will get you your prize. Um, unless anything questions have come in, I think we
Oh,
will.
just got a couple thank yous.
Awesome. Well, then we will wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. We are very excited for our Spooktober shows. We've had a lot of fun putting these together. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.